this is all about women at the forefront, bringing change in whatever capacity that affects the society or an individual in whatever capacity. We welcome you to be part of this conversation using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. My handle is Ajin Mamboy. My colleagues at Ramaguko, at Dorina Range, and at Fiona Shuri is how you can get them individually across all social media platforms. And our official station handle is at KBC Channel 1 TV. Now, as I'd mentioned, today we have two ladies with us in studio this morning to help us better understand the state of our waters and what more we need to do to protect our water sources. So that, you know, it is one of the most precious resources, but are we doing the best we can to take care of water? Well, to help us better understand the situation, this morning we have with us, to my extreme left, we have Lillian Nekesa, who is the Regional Program Officer here in Africa, working with Living Water International. Karibu sana.
Asante.
Glad you made time to be with us this morning.
Thank you.
And to my immediate left, we have Clemencia Osa, who is the Project Development Manager working with Brook East Africa. Karibu sana.
Thank you so
Glad
much.
to have you both this morning. Maybe we could start with social media handles for your organization so that our viewers can also get in touch via our social media platforms. How can guys find your organization on social media?
At Brook East Africa on Facebook.
Yeah.
At Brook East Africa on Twitter.
Yeah.
And also at Brook East Africa on YouTube.
Fantastic. Living Water?
At Living Water on all the three
platforms as well. Yeah. All right, so check them out, get to see what more the organizations do, and you can always shoot your questions if you feel you want to direct them personally to the organization. Now, before we even get into this conversation about our waters, we have been talking about, you know, COVID-19, the coronavirus. It is just ravaging through the globe, claiming lives. But what do you make of this situation, especially here in Kenya, given, you know, we have now confirmed cases? Let me start with you, Lillian. Your thoughts when it comes to this corona outbreak?
I actually think for us in the WASH space,
we
have a very great opportunity right now to educate.
Yeah.
Because we're in the water, sanitation, and hygiene. This is what we do basically every day. We're telling people to wash their hands, we're giving them access to clean and drinking water. So at this time, we are still working with the communities to encourage them to do the same.
Yeah.
Wash your hands, sanitize, which is what we are doing every day. So for us, during the corona time, we are helping the communities create awareness on how they can stay safe through doing the various actions I've talked about.
Basic actions, you know, for that matter. Your thoughts as well, Clemencia, looking at, you know, as she has mentioned, you know, in this water and sanitation space, your thoughts when it comes to the COVID-19 outbreak?
My thoughts are that it's everyone's responsibility and everyone is either affected in one way or another.
Yeah.
And so for us at Brook East Africa, we are encouraging our communities to follow the government directives of avoiding meetings of large groups. It is affecting our work because we cannot go to the communities the way we want to, but we are very sure that our staff also need to be taken care of in terms of hand washing, in terms of getting the right information and not making panic, because some people are passing a lot of information on social media that are not correct. So making sure that we just follow the government directive.
All right.
Yeah.
Just follow the basic protective directions and precautions that have been put. Wash your hands, sanitize, wear a face mask if you have to, cover your mouth when you sneeze and cough. That is a very simple yet that is the first line of defense that we need to adopt, okay? And let us avoid all this false information that, you know, is being mongered here and there. Go to the government websites. World Health Organization has put out proper information when it comes to this COVID-19 outbreak. Now, let's come back to the conversation. Women at the forefront, two women doing fantastic things, and we want to know more about that. But let me start with you, Lillian. You work with Living Water International. Tell us a bit about what Living Water International does.
Okay, so Living Water is a global INGO. We are currently in 17 countries across the world. We are in 9 countries in Africa, and the rest are our headquarters are in Houston, Texas. Then we have the other countries in Latin America and India. So what we do, we help communities get access to clean and safe drinking water. And we are a Christian NGO. So of course, while we help communities get access to clean, safe water, we're also preaching to them about the gospel of Christ.
Yes, well at it. All right, let's come to Brook East Africa. That's the title is closer to home. Tell us more about what Brook East Africa does.
So Brook East Africa, Brook is an animal welfare organization.
that is situated currently in 22 countries. We aim at ensuring that animals that are working, helping people in the farms are not suffering.
Yeah.
We do that by relieving their immediate suffering and also promoting lasting improvements in the areas where we work. In East Africa, we are working in Somaliland, we are working in South Sudan. We are also working in Tanzania and Kenya. Yeah, what we do is Brook East Africa does not work directly, but we work through partners. So we have partners like KENDAT, Kenya Agricultural Dissemination of Agricultural Technologies, Farming Systems, Kenya Send a Cow, and many other partners, Caritas Kitui also. What we do is we ensure that people know about animal welfare and treat their animals well for them to be able to be productive.
And speaking of animal welfare, from what you have seen when you are working with all these different organizations and partnerships, when you go to ground, what is the situation like when it comes to animal welfare? Do people really understand that animals have rights?
Yeah, the understanding has improved. Initially, before Brook started working here in 2001, the situation was worse because it was riddled with a lot of attitudes. The attitudes towards especially the working animals like donkeys, mules, and horses was different. And so people thought animals are not sentient beings. They don't have feeling. Animals don't have rights. They don't have to eat and so on. And so Brook worked through the partners to change that perspective. And the people that we work with in the 22 counties of Kenya are aware about the animal welfare. It is a bit difficult to change because there are resource needs. You need to have resources and you also need to have intrinsic motivation to do it. So what we are doing is we are encouraging change of attitude from very young ages, where we have 57 school clubs in Kenya, children reaching out to communities and reaching out to other children who do not have clubs in their schools, and particularly just creating a culture of care in these children. Because attitudes are very hard to change. You can only change them when somebody is young. And we are also working with women who are touching the animals on a day-to-day basis, working with them to get water, to fetch firewood, and to take food items to markets and from markets, and also agricultural people who are using them. Like in Kenya, if you go to Mwea, you'll see the rice industry there. The donkeys are really contributing because they are the ones who are bringing the produce from the farms to the markets. So we are also working with those youths who are doing that kind of transportation, but we are also working generally with men and women in the agricultural high potentials of Kiambu, places like Bungoma, to take the food to the markets and also to bring food home. So the situation has been like here in Nairobi, you know that there are animals that are helping people to fetch water. And some of those animals have wounds because the owners don't know how to treat them, or the carts and harnesses that they are using are not proper. Some of them are not even aware that the animals are supposed to be harnessed. So you find they put the item on the donkey, and you see that a lot of wounds are on them.
Gear.
So we are encouraging the owners of the animals to join groups, social groups, where they get support on how to take care of their animals. And we have vets who are also, vet doctors, who are also treating the animals in case they get sick. We encourage people who own donkeys to get in touch with us through our partners in the different regions, but also just to ensure that they know the animal has feelings.
We'll actually be getting some of those challenges that actually face some of these animals, and especially the donkeys, because people just see them as a beast of burden, and yet it is one of the most powerful animals that we have. We'll be getting to that in a bit, but let me come back to you, Lillian. You know, as the regional program officer, you're in charge of so many projects across Africa. Maybe tell us a bit about what your role entails when it comes to some of these projects that you roll out for your organization.
Basically, my major role is in programs and fundraising, because we are helping communities access water. So what our core business, we drill boreholes. So then we do hygiene and sanitation services, and then we do what we call orality. So we have a model we call Flourish, which is we are working through the churches to help to enter. Our strategy is to enter the community through the churches. So my role is to work with governments, with private institutions, with multinational, whoever is willing to fund our cause. So my role is in fundraising. So I help fundraise for the organization, and for the region.
Oh, absolutely. When it comes to trying to involve the youth, because they say the youth is a part of the population that is yet to be explored, the youth dividend is just sitting idle. How do you sort of integrate the youth into this conversation, and some of the women who are in marginalized communities, yet they could benefit so much from such?
Oh, the youth and the women, actually for us, they are the core, because we're working with the communities and the youth are actively participating.
Yeah.
So for example, when we are doing the wells, they are there. Because once we are done with that, we do hygiene and sanitation services. The youth are there, the women are there. And for us in the water sector, it's the women who do the bulk of the work. They fetch the water. And what we're trying to do is to help the youth and the women, also the children. We want the children to stay in school. We want the women to also be able to do other productive work aside from going to fetch water. You know, typically it's on average in the community is about 3 to 4 hours going to fetch water.
Yeah.
So what we are doing, we are helping them by what we have, we call them water user committees. We are training them on how to use safe water, because it doesn't make sense if we just do a borehole. First, we have to make sure we do the water quality testing, so they are part of that. So it's a form of TOT. We train them so that once we leave, they are able to train also the other people on how to store.
And keep it going.
Yeah, you store water safely. Yeah. You're able to teach the other people on how to wash their hands. So the committee, we train them and they're able to train the other community members on the same. And this is aimed at sustainability.
Aimed at sustainability. Yeah. Do you feel there are some cultural barriers that sort of hinder and are set against? You've just mentioned the fact that it is mostly women who are involved in this water and sanitation part of the project. Do you feel there's some sort of cultural barrier that comes into play, especially facing women?
Oh, a lot.
Yeah.
In some cultures that we work with, the women and the men cannot even share a toilet. So you can imagine if we don't get enough people to fund our course, the cultures, like a man and a woman cannot share the toilet. So what they end up doing is going to defecate in the bushes, which we call open defecation. So part of what we do is to train them on we do the CLTS, community-led total sanitation, which the women, the children, even the youth are involved in, so that they stop these very bad practices. But the sensitization helps them to become aware. But what we're emphasizing is on sustainability, because we are only in a community for a certain period. And how we work in different, we call them wash program areas. So for example, right now we're in Kisumu and Butere in Kenya. So we'll stay there for a period of 5 years until all the community, because if we stay 3-4 months, we'll not achieve impact. So we stay for 5 years, ensure that all these people are trained. When we leave the community, we have measurable impact. Yeah.
All right. Now, let me come back to you, Clemenza. When you hear of such things, cultural barriers still being a problem in this day and time, and especially facing women, how does that resonate with you?
Oh, I do not want to judge, because most of the things that were done culturally had reasons.
Yeah.
For instance, you know that the Luo in Kenya were removing 6 teeth.
Yeah.
And they had a reason for it. They said it's because it helps them when somebody falls sick. They are able to give them food. So that was their basic reasoning. But if we come to some of these things that stop women, I do not want to say that it is men who are propagating it, but the scales are not balanced for women and men. The expectations for women are higher, and the responsibility for women is higher. For example, in water and sanitation, 80% of women are expected in households that do not have water within the premises. They expect women to be the ones bringing the water.
To go and fetch the water.
To go and fetch the water. And this is where the donkey comes in handy. Because somebody lives maybe 7 kilometers away from the water. The water quality is poor and the woman has to get the water. Sometimes the woman does not get involved in economic production. At the same time, there are so many cultural practices that are also hindering women even from eating healthy or even from eating certain foods, because they are a reserve of men. But basically, I think the greatest problem that women have is access to leadership positions. We know that in Kenya now, women are representing at 9.8%, which is way below the global representation, which is 23%. So what are these? Women are facing violence. Women still don't make decisions. Even if women are in relationships with men, they are married, they don't make decisions. You find that in some countries, women are still expected to ask for permission from their husbands, and actually husbands can stop them from working. And they use sexuality. Most of the time, sexuality is used to push women out of leadership positions. I think you've heard even in the media. A lot of times when a woman differs, maybe has a different opinion from men, they will always talk about whether she's divorced
or
she sleeps around. Yeah. So it gets to that. Yeah.
And it's a pretty sad situation.
Yeah, it's very sad. But I think it's the responsibility of everyone, and we need to get the men involved. We don't need to bring it as if we are fighting. We need to bring it that it is the right thing to do. Just recently, the statistics were released, and it was saying that for every 100 shillings a man earns, a woman earns 68. If you take your children to university, you don't pay 68% for the girls. So the men need to look at it and say, I'm investing in these girls. Why are they going to get less? Then we start the discussion from there. So I think it's something that affects everybody. Someone once said that half of the brains we need to develop for economic development are in female heads. So if we leave the females behind, it means we will not get even half as much economic development as we require.
And that is actually in line with this conversation that, when it comes to gender equality, it's not a women's issue. No. It's actually an economic issue.
Yes.
Yes. It's an economic issue. So we need to review these issues when it comes to this old age, retrogressive practices that are stacked against women that need to be done away with in order for the whole generation to move forth. Now, let's come back and just looking at part of what, your organization does, that is Brook East Africa. And this is in regards to the animals. You've just mentioned that, a donkey being one of the ways that could assist some of these women in interior areas just go about their daily hustles, and especially when it comes to getting water. And now let's look at some of those challenges that face some of these animals. And the biggest one is malnutrition. And when it comes to feeding some of these animals, because one would be like, why do I need to feed it a proper balanced diet, and I need it to work for me to get that money? I can't use it back on the animal. What is the situation on ground when it comes to such issues?
Okay, the situation is different. In areas where we work, initially when we started working, like in the arid and semi-arid areas, we are targeting 275,000 donkeys who are used by 110 women. So first of all, when the women were doing these things on their own, it was very difficult. But the women have since been encouraged to join groups, and in the groups they talk about several things, including the welfare of their donkeys. And so what they are doing is they are even introducing prizes for people whose donkeys are looking healthy. So that's an incentive for people to take good care of their donkeys.
Yeah.
But that's besides the point. There are so many donkeys who are still not able to get balanced diets, who are still not able to feed properly. Of course, we know the drought. And so one of the things we are doing is we are raising funds to be able to do pasture, so that the donkeys are able to get food all year round, because there are certain times, like now it's been raining, so at least they're able to get food, grass. But many times in the arid and semi-arid areas, they are not able to get good food. Other times, they are left to wander. And so the owner doesn't even know if the donkey has been able to eat or they have not eaten. They bring water for the other farm animals, but they don't drink the water. So we are encouraging that when they are going to collect water using the donkeys, they should give the donkey the water first, because they are the ones who are at the water point, and then before they bring the water home for the other animals. The other thing we are talking about is the type of material they use to tether the donkeys. If they use nylon, it leaves some wounds on the places that it has been used. So we are encouraging the use of sisals. We have some communities, like one community in Kitui, which is involved in income generation for sisal, both to ensure the animal welfare, that there are no wounds caused by the tying and the tethering, so that they are using the correct material, which is the sisal.
All right. And I also want to get your thoughts when it comes to animal welfare. Ultimately, they're part of the ecosystem. And, especially when it comes to misuse and abuse, and especially when involving donkeys, we always see a cat, water guy riding with his donkeys, just hitting it and hitting it and hitting it. And some of these donkeys actually develop scab and wounds because of all this misuse. What do you make of such?
Actually, Clementia has a very interesting perspective. I like what they're doing. But my experience, like I worked in Lamu at some point.
Yeah.
There are no cars. There's basically one car for the county commissioner. So all the buildings you see in Lamu have been done by donkeys. So you can imagine all the buildings. So there's a lot of abuse that I've seen. And malnutrition, I'm not quite aware about the balanced diet and everything, but I think they also have rights to be safe like all the other animals.
Yeah.
I've seen controversy about the abattoirs, and whether or not people stealing other people's donkeys. So I think the sector needs to be regulated, and I think the minister did a very good job at controlling all that mess that was going on around there.
Yeah. And also coming back to you, Clemency, another big challenge that faces especially these work animals is the rise in skin, the hide trade. It has been a trend that has been on a constant rise. Maybe what is the situation on ground as we speak, from what your organization at least has found out?
Yeah, last year the Kenya Agricultural Livestock Research Organization did a research in conjunction with Brook, and we were able to establish that about 301,000 animals had been slaughtered. That was like 5 times the rate of reproduction of donkeys, and that has attracted smuggling of donkeys from other countries like Ethiopia, Tanzania, Uganda, and other countries.
And this was as a result of just getting the skin?
Yes, they're getting the skin. And there's also a lot of illegal bush slaughter that is happening because the abattoirs were then getting skins from people. They don't look at the animal, they get the skin. So encouraging buying of that led to a lot of women and young men and people losing their donkeys generally and their livelihoods. A donkey gives someone about 1,000 shillings per day. On a bad day, it gives them 500 shillings. So if you do the mathematics, it's quite a lot of money in a month. So these are people who have been rescinded to poverty. They are people who have slipped back to below the poverty line. And so I think the minister did a very good thing, Minister Munya. He said that the abattoirs were given 1 month. I think it's up to 24th of this month for them to be able to turn those things into the abattoirs, into butcheries for other animals. I think that is right, because we have been running a campaign to have the slaughter banned. We are lucky that it happened. Maybe we did not play a very big role. The minister also comes from a place where there are donkeys, and so he could have heard cries of the people in the communities. A lot of petitions were signed by community members, and these have reached government offices. So I think the minister acted on that. So we need to also look at who are the worst hit. The donkeys are serving the least of the population. They are at the lowest of the pyramid. So if we continue slaughtering them, then we are denying the right to survival and the right to livelihood for a large section of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, still looking at, animal welfare and moving the discussion further along is the whole issue of dehydration also being a challenge that some of these animals face. And that whole brings me to now this whole conversation of water and sanitation in itself. And of course, this coming weekend on the 22nd, we're going to be celebrating World Water Day. Let me come back to you, Lillian. When it comes to water and sanitation, your organization is big on that. Maybe what is the status of water and sanitation, just generally looking at it?
I'd say it's not good. We are doing a lot, but we still have a lot to do. Because globally, we're still at 1 billion people lacking access to clean, safe drinking water. Yeah. People are dying of waterborne diseases. People have no access to basic, even hygiene and sanitation. These things that we take for granted, even how to wash your hands, basic knowledge, it's not there. So what we are doing is educating the public and informing them on water hygiene and sanitations. We are also working with the women. We do menstrual hygiene. Yes. We are helping communities set up latrines and toilets, because this problem of open defecation, what we are doing is through the CLTS process, helping communities achieve open defecation status. We are also helping them, once you have water, because it's not just having access to clean drinking water, it's a very holistic thing. Yeah. You need water you need water at home, you need water in the school. So if the kids have access to water at home, they would not be wasting time going to fetch water, which means they're able to stay more in the schools. The same for the women. It's economics. If they're able to do other economic activities instead of, they can be able to take care of their family, that money that they're using for treating, for example, dysentery, cholera, bilharzia, that money can be used for other economic activities as well.
But why do you think that, we tend to misuse this resource that is so scarce in some areas? Is it the lack of knowledge about proper usage of water, or we just do not appreciate the little that we have?
I think until you're exposed to those who do not have, then you'll appreciate. You
don't really understand.
Yeah, you don't. Sometimes it's lack of knowledge. And those who have, like here in Nairobi, people just have access to a lot of water. When you go to the communities, they do not have. So they're drinking from the ponds, from the wells. So those people appreciate more when we do services like bringing them water close to them. But we are telling people, even those who have access to water, do not waste the water. That's why I like the theme for this year's World Water Day, water and climate change. And we are saying, do not, everyone, do not waste water. Please, everyone, try and use water more efficiently. Yeah.
I also like to get your thoughts when it comes to this whole issue of, understanding that water is one of the most precious resources that we have, but we also tend to misuse it.
I think the reason why some people misuse water is because they have a lot of it. The other reason is lack of knowledge. If you do not know that you don't need to, you need to recycle water. For example, wastewater, you can use it to water plants or even to do something else. That is important. But there's also unaccounted for water, non-revenue water. Sometimes maybe the design is faulty and the water meters are broken down, and the repair time, it takes longer to repair that. That leads to wastage. But also wastage is in terms of using clean water maybe to wash cars or things like that. So I think there are so many ways in which we can save water. Sometimes people waste with knowing that they're wasting because it's a lot, but also lack of knowledge.
And you had mentioned, when it comes to washing our hands, because we tend to think the more water you use, the better you're washing your hands.
It's the skill.
It's the skill, not the amount of water or soap that you use.
Right now, they're recommending you wash for at least 20 to 40 seconds.
Yeah.
But you have to wash in between your hands. You have to wash your elbows. Basically, everything. You have to wash your nails. So even when you're washing, you have to be very careful how to wash. And that's what we're training the communities. Not just put your water. Sometimes you just go to the tap, press, then you're out.
As long as the water is running proper,
yes, but we recommend to use running water, because you need to, by the time you're doing this, you do this, you wash your elbows, you clean your nails. That's even almost a minute, which is what is recommended for proper hygiene.
So again, it's back to the skill, not necessarily the amount of water you think you're using.
Exactly.
That is important. Now, also, how is, this whole conversation of water and sanitation in line, and of course in line with the theme for this year, water and climate change, lining up when it comes to sustainable development of any country and some of the projects that you have engaged in?
One, we are talking about efficiency. We are saying one is efficiency. Second is everyone has a role to play, which is the theme for this year. And like I mentioned, it's the whole community. The women have to be involved in being responsible. When we do, for example, like for us who do boreholes, we do water quality tests. If we leave the community, and once we've trained you on how, if you just come and keep your pumping, and if you're not maintaining the standards, there'll still be infections. So we are saying efficiency. Don't leave taps running, because there's no enough water for everyone. So when you have access, please utilize it efficiently. And then we're saying sustainability. Sustainability goes all around, and the theme focuses on globally, saying even up to agriculture, saying use climate-smart agricultural technologies. For example, when you do the double digging or mulching, it conserves the water. So you need to think holistically. How do I not waste water? And now, with the climate change, you realize the weather patterns have changed a lot. Sometimes it rains a lot. It floods in this town. It floods all over. It's very dry. So we need to harness the water, then store it properly, treat it, so that we reduce this disease burden of the waterborne diseases that are going on because of misuse of water. So to counter the global climate change, we need to be very thoughtful in all the sectors, from the household to the communities to the churches to the schools. And then once you're given training, also sensitize other people, because open defecation is real.
It is real, and it is happening. Every day, everywhere. You might think it's not happening where you are. You'll be surprised. Now, let me come back to you, Clemence. Maybe one of our viewers is watching and going, okay, you guys have talked about World Water Day, but I don't understand what this World Water Day is all about. Maybe briefly, from your understanding of what this World Water Day is going to be about, just for the benefit of our viewer.
Yeah, the theme for the World Water Day is we cannot afford to wait. The reason why we cannot afford to wait is that it is urgent. Water is being wasted. 70% of the water is being used for irrigation, and maybe it's not being used properly. So for the viewers, I would urge them to come out in large numbers on 22nd and go to the place where the World Water Day celebrations will be had. Specifically, this is to bring to our attention that water is a resource that we need to use sparingly, but also sustainably. Because if we do not use it in sustainable ways, then probably the future generations will not have water. We know that also we will be addressing the quality of water because the water is also polluted. There's a lot of effluent that is being put to the rivers, and nobody is having any pollution measures in the rivers, like Nairobi River. For those who live in Nairobi, we can see how Nairobi is polluted. There's a lot of debris in the river. There's every single thing in the river. And so we just need to be conscious of the environment and of the water sources.
All right. And also, Lillian, when it comes to you, why should people take this day with the seriousness that it deserves? Why is this day important?
If we do not take it seriously, there'll be no water. Because right now, what is happening is people are cutting down all the trees. Like, you know, just basic, we need the trees to harness the rain. If we continue like that, if we are not sensitized on the misuse of water and climate change, eventually there'll be no access to water. There'll be dehydration. People will die. People will die of dehydration. People will die of poverty because you'll be busy just dying of waterborne diseases. The water is polluted, like Clementia said. Pollution is a very big thing. So we need, as we use water, let's think about pollution. Let's think about sustainability. Let's think about because the global climate change is there. So let's be very proactive in trying to mitigate before we get to levels where we cannot come back.
We cannot control. Yes.
I wanted to add something. Last year, around October, we did a community needs assessment for the water because the donkeys play a big role in Kitui community. And what we realized is that the communities thought the water was dirty, it was smelly, the color was brown, but it was more expensive than the water we buy here in Nairobi.
Really?
Because they were paying up to 15 shillings for a 20-liter jerrycan. That's how the situation is.
For the dirty water?
For the dirty water.
Wow.
So, and we were able to look at the water, the statistics, and we realized that the dirtier the water, the further they were bringing it and the more expensive it was.
Costs.
Because some of them were even using motorbikes to bring the water. So it is really a big deal.
And what do we need to do to sort of bring this conversation home, to send the message home, and especially when it comes to awareness among the people? Because I think there's a very big knowledge gap when it comes to how we take care of our water sources and this whole sanitation process. What more do you think needs to be done?
I think the leadership needs to put budget to this, and the people need to hold the leadership to account. Because there is no reason you'll have a representative in government, in parliament, and you don't have water. And when they come for meetings, they come with bottled water. I remember some time back, I don't know if it was in Samburu or where, they brought all dirty water bottles to the members of parliament in a meeting. That was the situation. Yes, they were tired. Yes, they were tired of seeing these people with designer water.
That is not common to them.
Yes, that is not common to them.
A different reality.
Yeah.
All right.
So that needs to be done. People need to be put together to understand why they need to conserve the little water that is there. And more corporates and more well-wishers need to come and join in to bring those water facilities.
Lillian, your thoughts as well when it comes to just helping send the message home when it comes to protecting our water sources and the importance of sanitation, especially for the common mwananchi?
Like for us, we're working with the mostly rural communities because that's where they don't have access to tap water. So we are working with the churches. So what I'll say is sensitization, a lot of sensitization. And the church is a very big voice in the community. So our strategy is to work with the churches to sensitize communities on how they can use water, how they can store water, how they can utilize water, and how they can basically help other members of the communities to do the same.
All right. Now, part of the three pillars of the theme for this year of the World Water Day is everyone has a role to play. In line with some of the projects that both your organizations are doing, how can the common mwananchi be involved, be part of these projects? Where are they to just all contribute towards the efforts of protecting our water sources and improve on sanitation? What role can they play towards some of the projects that you guys have?
Like for us, like I mentioned, we have water user committees, which we train. Because
Down in some of these communities?
Yes, like now we're in Butere and we're in Kisumu East, and we're moving to Nyakach and Isiolo. So we are saying water is a very scarce resource, and this theme we are talking about sustainability. So how do you make it sustainable? One, we are training, because we are only in the community for a certain period. So we are saying, one, we'll do the boreholes.
And you need to leave the impact.
Yes, we'll do the boreholes for you. And again, let the funders help us also in our course. That's how they can. Because once we do, we only have our fixed budget for the year for all the countries that we're working in, but we need donors to help us to be able to do more boreholes. Because the average cost, of course, it varies country to country, but for us to achieve more impact and to live so that the women don't go fetching water, the kids stay in school, we need money to be able to do it. But for the communities that have already been trained, we are saying we are doing the TOT model. Once you're trained, train other people. Sensitization, listen to the elders, listen to those who've, and I like the way we are doing it, because once we train the community members, the committee ensures that the borehole is maintained, the standards are maintained. Because that is part, because we have quality standards which have to be followed. Because even if you do a borehole with very bad quality, the whole community can even get diseases from that. So we have, at the community level, let everyone be responsible. We're talking also about the efficiency. Do not waste water, because there are people, once you have access, don't waste it. Whether you're in the towns or you're in the village, do not waste the water. Don't leave your taps running. Don't leave the boreholes just running. Just take enough, utilize enough, use it for irrigation. Avoid pollution. If you, once we do the toilets, please try and use the toilets properly. Because now, if the communities go back to, and that is part of what we are doing, education on community-led total sanitation, and that's how they're involved. The community participates, we call it triggering process. You're telling them that, you know, the whole ecosystem. If you go and defecate in the water, eventually it's the same water you're going to drink.
It's going to end up back in you.
So it's about sensitizing the communities on, this is, you may not feel that you're drinking the feces, but you actually are, you're eating them. So we are telling the communities, and that sensitization actually triggers them in their mind, and they participate in helping the community achieve our open defecation status.
Yeah. Sending the message home.
Right.
Painting a proper picture. And also coming to you, Clemente, you know, some of the ways that, you know, everyone can come on board when it comes to playing a role. We each have personal responsibility to take when it comes to water and sanitation. Your thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts are people are involved at different places. There are the technical specialists, the engineers who are involved in the design, and there are a lot of temptations maybe to make sure that the design is corrupted, you know. Like if you are supposed to put certain materials or certain technical specification, it's not correct. And I remember in the same needs assessment that I was telling you about in Kitui, many of them were saying the sand dams that were done had been swept away. And checking with our other partner, Africa Sand Dam Foundation, they said it's the technical specification that was not followed. So if you follow the correct technical specification, it means the water facilities will last longer. That is in terms of design. Yeah. But when you get to another level is management of this water structure. Is everybody involved? Are the women involved? Because we now see that 80% of them are expected to bring the water home. What if they are expected to bring the water home and the leadership roles are for men? What about the operation and maintenance of the facilities? Who is involved? Are the women also involved? And are these people aware where to get the spare parts in case the facilities break down? What about making sure that the area where the facility is protected so that the quality of the water is not compromised? So all those are roles that need to be taken care of. But just as Lillian said, we also need a lot of development partners to get into the space. Yeah. I know there is CSR in Kenya. Corporate companies are expected to participate in CSR. And my challenge to them would be, could they start with water? Yeah.
And speaking of partnerships, which partnerships do you feel are very vital when it comes to this whole fight, when it comes to our water sources and sanitation for that matter? Let me start with you, Lillian.
For us, we work, because in the communities first, you cannot work in the communities without working with government. So by default, we are working with government.
Both levels of government.
At the county level, at the national level. Because it's about policy. We cannot implement policies until the government sets policies. Yeah. So we are working with the government. We are also working with the private partners. Those are well-wishers who want to fund our course. We are also working, we are with we call them we have the INGOs, we have the multinationals, we have governments, we have private philanthropic partners. Like for us, we have annually in October, we have fundraising. Annually, we have a gala. So everyone who wants to participate in this course, we display all the results that we've achieved in the year, and they help us fund our course.
Okay.
So it's all different partners, as long as you see, because everyone can see the value of water. And you can imagine if you don't have water in your house just for one day, how hectic it is. So how much more for the communities who don't even have the tap water.
All right.
Yeah.
Clemencia, also when it comes to some of these vital partnerships, which ones do you feel could go a long way?
The Water Resource Management Authority, which is regulating how, giving permits and also how water bodies are supposed to be used, which has set up the water user associations and management authorities. But also there is the Water Trust Fund, which has been set up with the government. So I think those are critical parts.
They're very critical. And also when it comes to local authorities, in terms of when it comes to protecting some of these water sources and avoiding situations where abuse is, there's people taking advantage of the situation as it is. As you just mentioned, you know, it was the whole, the project that you've mentioned in Kitui, it was because of the technical bit that wasn't really followed to the latter. When it comes to local authorities stepping in to ensure that if this is the way things are supposed to be done, it is done, and those who, you know, choose to take shortcuts, they face the consequences. Could that help the situation?
Yes, that could help the situation.
Yeah.
But also one thing we did not mention is that women are abused when they are going to get the water. So that abuse, there are also partners like the National Gender Equality Commission who need to come in and also support other partners.
All right. Now, as we bring the conversation to a close, maybe what would be your closing remarks to all our viewers today in regards to animal welfare, water and sanitation, and of course the upcoming World Water Day? Clemencia, let's start with you.
I think I would encourage them to visit our pages, as I said, Brook East Africa, get in touch with us. But also, if you want to support a cause, support the animal welfare cause. Support the donkeys, because they are supporting farm systems. They are making people put food on the table, children go to school.
All right. Lillian, your closing remarks as well on this whole conversation around water.
I'd say water is a very basic need, and we should not abuse it. We should be at the forefront of utilizing it effectively. The effectiveness is very important. And for us, I'd emphasize on the sustainability of it, because the basic things I was saying, like teaching people how to wash hands, teaching people how to maintain the water quality, how to the quality, and for us, we fence all our boreholes. And I like, because we are using it at the community level. So when you have community participation, it's very easy to have sustainability, because it's not like you just brought and gave it to them.
Involving them.
Yes, the communities are involved in this course. And we are saying that everyone, we cannot wait. Yeah.
We cannot wait. We each have a role to play. All right, and before we get to close this whole conversation, remember the hashtag is Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. We're going to be reminding you our guests' social media handles. Of course, there are organizations' social media handles, but we just want to check in with Dorit and see what you guys are saying in regards to this conversation, of course, culminating to World Water Day, which will be on the 22nd of March this coming weekend. D, what is Watagwan?
So Twitter really concerning matters World Water Day, and I just want to read. I want to sample two actually, and this one says that water can help fight climate change, and of course a number of pointers there, but I want to read one which is mostly significant, especially for us Africans, and this one goes like, rainwater can be stored for dry periods and even used. And based on this tweet, I just want to know from our guests, how best can we preserve rainwater for us to use? Because let's face it, at times, especially in the rural areas, because of the lack of or because of the shortage of water, we tend to harvest rainwater, and sometimes someone just drinks it. Immediately they've harvested it. So they have not stored it well, they have not filtered it well. So which is the best way to actually store or preserve rainwater before consumption?
Lillian, maybe you could take that?
Yeah, I'd say that we have, at the village level, you know, the water guard. That's a very basic. If you harvest, and you can just put it in the 20-liter jerry can, that's the very basic level. And of course, at the level where we are doing boreholes, we have engineers who do water quality testing for hydrochlorine and all these infections. So, but at the very household level, when you harvest, at least put the water.
Treat it first.
Yes, treat it.
All right. D?
Yeah. Yeah, so allow me to read one last one, and this one says that hashtag World Water Day, commemorated annually on March 22nd, celebrates water and raises awareness of the 2.2 billion people living without access to safe water. And what I'd love to know, and even for the benefit of our viewers, these are 2.2 billion people living without access to safe water, not just water, but safe water. This is an event celebrated annually every 22nd day of March. So what can we do to reduce this number? Because 2.2 billion is really a huge number.
And both of you can actually have a take when it comes to that. Let's start with you, Clementia. You want to take the tweet again?
No, I think I understood it. I think it's the role of everyone, like we said, save
Everyone
the
has a
water,
role
don't
to play.
misuse the water. Yes.
Yeah.
Don't misuse the water.
Yeah, everyone has a role to play because I cannot do it by myself. Clementia cannot do it. You cannot do it by everyone. Let everyone participate in efficiency of water usage.
And remember, as you go about wasting water, there's over 2 billion people out there who do not have that running water that we take for granted.
Yeah.
All right, that's all, Dee?
Yeah, that's all.
All right, thank you so much. Remember, the hashtag is still Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. At KBC Channel 1 is official station handle. My handle is at Jade Wamboi. My colleagues at Ramaguko, at Dorina Range, and at Fiona Shuru is how you can get in touch with us individually. But before we get to close the conversation, maybe you could remind us your social media handles so that our viewers can also get in touch with you guys and get more information if they need so.
Our handles are at Brook East Africa on both Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
All right.
And Living Water.
Living Water International, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Yes.
All right, remember we've been speaking with Lillian Nekesa, who is to my extreme left. She is the Regional Program Officer here in Africa, working with Living Water International. And to my immediate left, we have Clemencia Osa, who is the Project Development Manager, working with Brook East Africa. Thank you so much, ladies. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep educating the masses. When a woman teaches, the world learns. I just made that up. The world learns. But it made sense. It's a good one. Hashtag J.